All right. Hi. Yeah, we're just in time, and SkyOut is going to tell us something about VX, the underground virus scene. And I'm thrilled about this talk because, you know, my parents opened an email, or my dad opened an email that promised cheap gas prices and some insider information about cheap gas prices. And yeah, a hacker took complete control of his computer. And 1 year later, my mother opens the same email. Crazy. So, welcome SkyOut about the VX underground scene.
Okay, can you all hear me? Well, perfect. Okay, so what shall this speech be about? Well, it shall be an introduction and overview about the whole virus scene. You will be introduced to some of the groups, some of the techniques and keywords we use in our scene, and you will learn about our ideology. That's very important for me. You shall understand why we code viruses, why we do it, and why it is not our aim to harm somebody. So, let's start here with VX, the virus underground. Okay, so first of all, some facts about me. My real name is Marcel Dietl. Well, introduced as SkyOut and better known in the internet with this name. I'm 18 years old, actually, and I come from the nice city of Wiesbaden, which is in Hessen, in the middle of Germany. The last 2 months I worked for MK Media Concept in Wiesbaden, which is a little web design company. But until starting in February, I will work for Daimler Technology Services and Solutions as a penetration tester in Ulm. Well, what to say about me? I'm Gothic. I'm a social engineer. And I'm an autodidact. And there are 3 major things: security, cigarettes, and coffee. So, I'm addicted to the CCC, of course. Okay, the term VX, what does it mean actually? Well, VX, of course, C11H26NO2PS. No, that's not what we are talking about. It's not chemistry here. VX means virus exchange, or in our case, it means virus coding. So, originally, the term was meant for people who exchanged viruses, who sent them to each other. But nowadays, most people use VX as a synonym for virus coding. So we will talk about virus coding today and virus coding techniques. So VXers are the people coding or exchanging viruses. And they form groups to do this with other people. And those groups we call the VX groups, simply, isn't it? So, what groups do we have in the scene nowadays? Well, first of all, we have 29A, which you can find under www.29a.net. It's a very famous group, and it has brought out many assembler viruses within the last years. It has a forum at the moment where they publish viruses, but it seems like a bit they are dying nowadays. But they have great e-signs, and what an e-sign is, we will talk later about it, don't worry. By the way, 29A is a hex code of 666, which is quite interesting. So what next? RRLF stands for Ready Rangers Liberation Front. It's a German group founded by Firetoaster and other guys. 7 years ago, it has brought out about 7 or 8 e-signs. Very interesting stuff in it. Check it out at rrlf.de.vu. What groups else do we have? Doom Riders, written with Z, of course. doomriders.co.nr. Doom Riders is an American team originally founded in America by a guy called Synth Flash and others, and is now led by Wargame from southern Italy. What is interesting about Doom Riders especially? Well, in America, writing viruses is illegal. But still, they do it. They want to show that they fight for their ideology. They show the American law. Even if you make us criminals, we won't give up our hobby. Then we have Purgatory. Purgatory is an Iranian team, which you can find under purgatory.net.tf. F13 Labs. Similar to 29A Labs, F13 Labs is built out of international VXers and has quite interesting stuff on their homepage. So this is just to introduce you into some groups and so you get some internal information. EUF, my favorite one, because I founded it. EUF-project.net was founded by Radiation and me in 2000, let me think, 6, sorry. And we brought out our first e-sign in 2007. And it's one of the most active groups nowadays. It has a forum at vx.euf-project.net, which you should really check out if you are interested in virus coding, because there are many interesting things to learn. Last but not least, NE365, which is the whole VXs of China. Also in China it is not easy to code viruses, so they are really like underground. Okay, so the ideology behind it, what I told you about. We want to learn something about ideology. So what people do we have in the scene? First of all, of course, we have the criminals. They are coding viruses to harm somebody, to build up botnets, like we heard before in the Stormworm presentation, to make DDoS attacks or whatever. Well, but those people are not the VXers, or at least not the VXers what I call VXers. Crazy sentence. So we won't look at criminals. What else? Hobbyists. Hobbyists are quite interesting. They come and go. So a hobbyist is someone who likes coding for many years, normally, and he wants to explore something new, and so he codes a virus. And then he's happy and goes again. Those people don't help the scene a lot. What's more important are ideologists. What is an ideologist? An ideologist is somebody who really codes viruses because it's his ideology, he loves coding viruses and the mysterious thing in coding, and those people are very important for the scene because they keep it alive. And very interesting, I like to compare the VX underground with the hacker underground because we have white hats and black hats. So what is a white hat in a VX scene? A white hat is somebody who does code viruses, like a hacker codes, for example, hacker tools or whatever. But he does not do this to harm somebody. He does not spread binary versions of his virus. He just codes it, exchanges the source code to conduct knowledge exchange, but does never ever spread a virus. In comparison to this, we have the black hats, who really spread viruses and often are in prison now. Yes, it's true. Most of them are in prison, like Wave, for example. Okay, let's look at history, present, and future of the scene. Okay, how was it in history? Well, the first worms, or let's say, yes, the first worms came out on floppy disks. It was really simple. You had a floppy disk infected with the virus, you gave it to your friend inserted it into his PC, and boom, he got infected. That were simple worms. Then the Windows OS became more and more popular, and more worms targeted Windows. So the really interesting worms like Sasa, Netsky, or whatever are made for Windows. So that was the history. Simple viruses spread by floppy disk and first worms for Windows and mainframes as well. Now, the present is quite interesting. What do we have at the moment? We have a quite criminal scene. We have botnets that get built up, many spyware and adware. And we have more viruses for Unix and Linux-based systems, of course. More viruses in scripting languages, more cross-platform. But what I want to say when I say we have many criminals, never forget we are talking about the VX scene that are not the criminals. And how will future be? Interesting question. Actually, my crystal ball got broken today, but I guess I saw something like Bluetooth malware and mobile device malware in it. So there's an interesting article by Marco Rogge in Hacking Magazine about Bluetooth malware, and I guess this will be the future, mobile device malware. I could be wrong, but I guess. So let's talk a bit about cross-platform malware, because it's a common trend at the moment. Okay, first of all, how can we achieve cross-platform malware? Well, we have macro viruses, for example. What is a macro virus? First of all, let's ask what is macro. Let's imagine we have an Office suite like OpenOffice or MS Office that runs on many systems. For example, OpenOffice runs on Unix, Linux, Mac OS X, and Windows. MS Office even runs on Mac. So a macro is like a little automated routine that gets executed when the document is opened and there's no other security like forbidding macros to run. So a macro virus that does nothing else than execute itself when the document gets opened. And the interesting thing about it is, for example, when you are on Linux, you can find out with a macro if you are on Linux. So you can write a dropper especially for Linux. If you are on Mac OS X, you can write a dropper for Mac OS X. Some of you may ask what's a dropper. A dropper is nothing else than a simple program that gets dropped into a file and gets executed. On Windows, for example, you could drop a batch script that kills or formatted the HDD. On Linux, you can write a Python script that gets dropped and spreads over XChat or whatever. And on Mac OS X, you could write a Ruby dropper, for example. And just to say it, it was done. There was an OpenOffice swarm, especially done with macro viruses, called Bad Bunny. And if you want to find out something about it, just search for Bad Bunny OpenOffice swarm in Google. You will find some interesting stuff. Okay, .NET and Mono. I won't say that much about .NET and Mono, but it's a common trend to use .NET at the moment. Many people like to code in C#, code in Mono, and it will run on .NET and Mono, and therefore it runs on mostly every system. There is a good presentation by Paul Sebastian Ziegler, also known as Tatsumori, about this at the, don't get me wrong, Black Hat conference in Las Vegas called Cross-Platform Malware within the .NET Framework. It shows perfectly how malware could spread over the .NET Framework because it runs on every system. Okay, scripting languages are interesting. I love scripting languages, actually. A scripting language has an interpreter. Those interpreters mostly run on many systems. Python runs on Unix, Linux, Mac, Windows. So if you code a virus in a scripting language, you can easily execute it on different systems. Low-level languages are the most difficult ones. You could write a virus in assembler, for example, that changes its behavior within the system. So if it is on Linux, it acts differently than when it is on Windows. That is like the most difficult one to code, a low-level cross-platform virus. But a good example is Winux, which is a combination of Windows and Linux. This was a very good example how to code a virus from different systems and really hit the news. So we talked a bit about spreading. Okay, but what spreading techniques do we actually have? Okay, floppy disk. Yeah, I mean, many people use floppy disks, don't we?